What's up, YouTube? We are live here on the Allen Hour. Dylan and Andrew back here with you for another Yankees series report, breakdown, and recap. And it was another series win for the Yankees, now 7-2 on the season. They get 2 out of 3 against the Miami Marlins in what maybe many viewed should have been a sweep, but we'll take 2 out of 3 nonetheless. And listen, 7-2, you can't complain with that. 9 games through, and they got a upcoming series against the once was Oakland Athletics, but we'll get to that series a little later on in the live stream. But we got everything covered for these 3 games this past weekend. Just a good series overall, Andrew. Just your overall thoughts on the series before we go into each of the 3 games specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good series, more of like an actual baseball MLB series than I feel like the last few were, just because it felt like it was dominant pitching in the last 6 games. And then this series was more like, okay, we're on our toes. We need offense, we need this, we need that. So more of like just kind of a give and go series. The Marlins, man, they're pesky. Their pitching was not good, walking everybody on the earth, but their hitting, their batting order is like really pesky, like does not go away, is constantly getting on base, is constantly making things happen. Dylan and I warned, that this would be a possibility. They are very young after a team. Finished last year pretty good considering. I mean, you wouldn't think the Marlins finished last year where they did. So looking to improve on that. And it's not a lineup that I want to face too often. So I'm glad we kind of got it out of the way early in the season.
Yeah, and they're also being in the National League. You just play them the one time and that's it. So good to get them now. And, no Kyle Stowers either, which is one of their better bats in the lineup. So he was hurt to start the season. He's still not playing with Miami right now. So you're right. If this series was in June, July, August, Kyle Stowers in full swing could have been an even bigger issue in this lineup. So I think you're right. We got him at the right time. And I do think that we kind of it was nice in a way that we got to see the offense go out there and win us a game for once, because you're right. To start the season, it was Max Fried and Cam Schlittler just pitching out of their mind. And while that's all great and all, the bats do need to win you some games. That's just baseball. In every sport there is, you're not going to be perfect doing everything. So there is one part of the game that's going to have to pick up the slack in certain scenarios. And we did kind of get to see that this series. And we did get to kind of see some of our high leverage relievers go into some spots where, they're playoff type of situations with guys on base in big spots late in the game. And Bednar had another 30-plus pitch outing. He was able to get out of the trouble with bases loaded. So you don't obviously want to be in those situations, but when you are, you want to be able to see your guys get out of them. So that was refreshing to see in that case, to know that we kind of have that should those situations come about. So let's get to game 1. Normally we start with the game of the day that we're recording, but since the team has an off day, we're live here on Monday. They played yesterday. We can start with game 1. I think this was the best game for the Yankees from start to finish on both ends of the side of the field, offense and pitching wise. You look at Will Warren, he was just ever so close to going to that 6th inning mark to get the quality start, but he did have a pretty good outing given that it was just 77 pitches. 6 strikeouts. You do like to see the no walk ratio as well right there. 4 hits, just 2 runs. And you mentioned it at the top, Andrew, that the walks for the Miami staff this entire series, whether it was the starters, the bullpen arms, it just became an issue. And Yuri Perez got it started for the Marlins. 6 walks in this game. The Yankees winning the first game of the series 8-2. And we'll get to all the highlights and individual stats for each player. But just the pitching, you could definitely tell that Will Warren had the upper hand and Yuri Perez was struggling to find the zone early.
Yeah, and we talk about Max Fried and Cam Schlittler so far this year just because of how awesome they've been. But Will Warren has now put together 2 really good starts. And you're not going to see Will Warren go 77 pitches all season long. He did get in a little bit of trouble in the 6th inning, so they had to pull him a bit early, a bit short of the quality start. But yeah, he's been not just as good because those guys have been unreal. But, if they weren't as good as they have been, we'd be talking about Will Warren right up there with both of those guys. So yeah, it was really refreshing. And Yuri Perez, 6 walks. I mean, that was probably the guy that I circled in the series as the best starting pitcher for the Marlins, and the Yankees really got to him.
And what impressed me too was that Will Warren giving up that 1st inning home run immediately in a hole, 1-0, the opposition up in the game. And then from there on out, he was able to kind of just hunker down. And yeah, he got into trouble in that 6th inning, which is why he was out of the game kind of early. But from innings 2 through 5, he was, it just seemed like he was able to bounce back from that 1st inning Xavier Edwards solo shot, which gave the offense plenty of time to put together some runs. in this one. And then, Aaron Judge is bottom of the first, 2-run home run, hanging pitch. So we talked about Yuri Perez not being able to find the zone. And then when he did, it just was not the pitch you want to throw to a guy like Aaron Judge, a slider on the inner half that just you cannot afford to leave over the plate that much. And Aaron Judge made him pay.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the reason he walked so many guys. I mean, there were no outs in the game. He just hung his first pitch of the game and it was already gone, right? And now that 1-run lead you got is already just disappeared. Aaron Judge on the money, and it's like, oh boy, like here we go. And I'm sure that probably startled him for the rest of the start. Probably added to his 6 walks in the second inning. There, the Yankees were really running all over the field. Jazz swiped 2 bases. Then Caballero behind him swiped a base. So you had second and third. Then Grisham, eventually they got the bases loaded and Grisham walked, and Judge was actually hitting the wrist, which was scary for a little bit.
Yeah.
He seemed like pretty upset at Yuri Perez at that pitch. I mean, I feel like Judge, there have been so many times he's been hitting that forearm and wrist area where it really just is. It's not good. It's not what you want to see, because a lot of those injuries for him have come on pitches like that. And Ben Rice in that inning as well had the bases loaded for him. At this point, the Yankees are up 4-1, and he had his first terrible challenge of the season. I actually have a video pulled up because I felt like it was deserving of showing just how bad this was. Let's take a look.
Oof.
So look at that. I mean, he's right at the zone. We can see that, right? I
Yeah.
don't think like the broadcasters are able to tell right away either, because they seem like to guess before the thing happens. But right away, that's a terrible challenge. And you're going to see how embarrassed he looks when he sees that. He's going to be like, holy crap. I mean, immediate head down, like, Jesus, like, what was I doing? Now, this is a bad thing for a couple reasons, in my opinion, because I do think Ben Rice really sees like the plate well. I think he's a really good judger of, like, he doesn't chase that much. I think to start this season a little bit, he's striking out a little bit more than he usually does. But I don't want this to like alter him from challenging pitches going forward. I mean, this
Right.
one is terrible. Usually you see the ball, leaning off the edge just a little bit in any of the directions. This one is clean, like right in there. I hope it doesn't steer him away. We're going to get to another challenge in another game that was kind of just like this, but I do think he has a good sense of the zone. So I'm hoping that this is not like he's not going to challenge anymore because of this.
And I feel like he's been able to hit worse pitches, maybe in this game, especially or maybe in the series where he hit those foul home runs. If you remember the back-to-back foul home runs, they were like up in the zone fastballs that were strikes, but borderline strikes. And he just took them to yard. And this one was to a lefty. Like that is the sweet spot. You ask most lefties that hit home runs, it's the lower inside part of the plate where they want the ball, and to have an off-speed pitch be put there, especially in a 1-1 count where you're looking for a good pitch to hit. Like, I just think you're right. He'll look at that and he'll definitely go, I don't even know what I was thinking. Maybe he was just pissed that he didn't swing it. And he's like, you know what? That has to be a ball. I don't know how I didn't think that was a strike when he threw that. I don't know how else to explain it.
We're gonna see like so many home runs Ben Rice hits on that pitch this year. So for him to like challenge that and think it's not, no shadows or anything either, like no like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. shadows where it's hard to see the ball, bright and sunny. Yeah, I don't know, just a little bit of a funk. I don't think he wanted to drop down to 1-2 in that count.
Yeah, you just don't see it too often with Ben Rice. But again, Ben Rice did have himself a hell of a first game. After striking out the first 3 at bats, he did bounce back.
Yes,
hitting the solo home run, which was the second of the year. He has 3. We'll get to the third one later on in the series, but that was number 2 for him on the season. And then had the 2-run double in the 8th inning to make it 8-2, which are huge runs late in games to add to the lead, because 6-2, one swing of the bat with the bases loaded, it's a tie game. 8-2 is where you really start to have some hell of a comeback if you're the opposition. So
yeah.
And it was well struck. It was not a gimme double. I forget who was in right field for the Marlins, but he almost made a play on it, but just he smoked the ball too much, got to the wall too quick.
If you're going to embarrass yourself like that in a game with a challenge like that, and keep in mind, it's not just embarrassing like for him. Everybody in the stadium is watching that screen too when that happens. So for him, then in the other 2 at bats that he gets towards the end of the game, he hits a double and then he hits a homer after he hits a foul home run and then hits a double. And that double, by the way, was like missed by a home run by like maybe 2 inches. It was at like the very, very top of the wall. So that's what you want to see. You want to see a young guy like that when he deals with something like that to kind of bounce back and still have a great game, because he's off to a fantastic start. So it was really nice to see him bounce back there.
Yeah, here. I mean, you're talking about his fantastic start. I have his statistics prepared right here.
Yeah.
I mean, in 8 games, 370 average, 3 homers, 11 RBI, which is tied for 4th in majors, and his 1.38 OPS, which is second in the league. So you're talking about a fantastic start, and it's not Aaron James Judge, which is nice to see. Again, Ben Rice, we have high hopes for. He showed plenty of signs last year, but to see him take this step, and I understand the ABS discussion, he'll eventually start to figure it out. Don't forget, it's just 8 games at this point. Well, I mean, they played 9, but in this challenge happened in his 7th game on the season. So, it was just, they're getting new to it. And so they'll eventually start to get used to that strike zone. But it has been an unreal start for Ben Rice. We'll see if he can, it's hard to keep up this kind of production, but we'll see if he can continue to have good at bats and hopefully try and get some of those strikeout numbers down, because when he does get out, that does seem to be the way that he does get out. Like, it's not like he's, at least in this series in particular, I think he had 6 strikeouts. So a lot of the outs for this series were via the strikeouts. So it'd be nice to see if he could put some balls in play and, make the fielders make the outs essentially. So, but overall, Ben Rice, a tremendous series, and he's continuing to have a great start to this season. But just to continue with the first game, we talk about the trouble that Will Warren got into that 6th inning. They ultimately pulled him out of the game. They were able to work out of trouble. It was Tim Hill came in to get the 1-out hold. I don't know if he ever got credited for that hold. I know our cousin Jake has him in fantasy and was a little pissed off about that, but he finished with 9 saves and holds in the week. So go cry. I don't really care about that anymore. But Tim Hill just doing what Tim Hill does, comes into big spots, gets the big out. And it was a ball hit to him, which as a fan, you don't really want to see your pitchers have to field the ball. We've seen a ton of times where across the league, not just with the Yankees, where these guys are booting the ball away. They just spike it in the dirt and it gets in the outfield. And in that spot with the guys on base, you definitely don't want to be doing that. So it was nice to see Tim Hill make a play, get out of that inning unscathed.
Yeah. I mean, and you talk about the pitching as a whole. Will Warren in this game, he gave up 2 home runs, which at the time of the second home run, that was his second hit allowed in the game, right? So now he's sitting with 2 hits, 2 home runs. And sorry, I thought I muted my mic there.
No, you're good.
With my hands. He has 2 hits allowed, 2 home runs allowed, and then in the 6th inning, he gives up another 2 hits, which eventually pulled him. But that second home run, I actually have a video of that I wanted to showcase a little bit, because this is the first series in the Bronx, right? So we were getting that feeling of Yankee baseball back in the Bronx, and I just this guy in the front row on this second home run here, he gets it. He's like, yeah, look at this ball, everybody, and he's like, okay, let me stand up on this table here, kiss it, goodbye. I mean, that is just, look at that. I don't know. I don't even think that's a table.
It's not a table.
I think he stepped on pure cement there.
It's the cement wall that's covered by that StubHub padding. It's 100% that.
I don't want to. This woman too right here had quite the reaction. She's like, "What are you doing? No, stop!" And then bang.
Yeah, she wanted to keep the ball.
She wanted to keep the ball. That's not how it works in the Bronx.
She doesn't understand the rules. Must have been her first game.
That was pretty cool. And then, obviously we talk about the Tim Hill and Ben Rice had the bounce back. The Yankees are up 8-2. And in the 9th inning, what ended up being like the most uneventful, or we thought was going to be the most uneventful 9th inning out of the 3 games. Ben Rice, Cody Bellinger decides to help out Ryan Yarbrough, which I believe in his first appearance, Ryan Yarbrough this season, Bellinger makes a play. Look at that. He makes a play that he didn't even know he made at first. Right. Now, at first you see this and then you go, oh my God, how did it? Unbelievable.
I thought he caught it on his stomach, but then they show the sideways angle and you see how separated the ball is from his glove, and you don't even realize it hits his wrist, really. It doesn't even hit the glove.
Yes.
Hits the wrist. Here's your angle.
Exactly right here. It pops out and bang,
and just snags
backhand snap. Now, when this first happened, I was almost shocked at how shocked he was, because I thought he just caught it there. Like simple like that, because the ball disappeared. And then you skip to the later point, and my God.
Magic. That was my series MVP prediction. And I did say he would make a tremendous play out in left field. So I will toot my own horn there. Not to spoil anything, but when we get to that point of the segment of the series, the video, excuse me, unfortunately, Cody Bellinger will not be named series MVP, I don't think, but he did have one of the best plays in the entire series. Give him credit for that. I still don't know how he caught that. He just kind of, it's almost like the Joe Mauer play behind the dish where the ball hit the backstop and it just went directly back to him, and he just stuck the glove out and it just bounced back towards him. We don't have that video prepped. That was just off the cuff, but That if you're watching at home, look that up. Look up Joe Mauer, a backstop behind, like backward scoop. The pitch went awry. It hit off, I think it was the Camden Yards bricks, and it bounced directly back to him, and he just went snagged. It didn't even look. It's just one of those plays that reminds you of.
Yeah, so let's just say Dylan felt pretty good about his pick after a catch like that. But then the Yankees,
And it was game one, so I was on my high horse.
Exactly. And then after that, that was the first out of the inning. So I mean, after that, the Marlins were dead. I mean, how do you even manage a rally after that? That's it.
Yeah.
They get the 2 outs, they win the game, they win game 1, 8-2. By far the most dominant win of the series for them.
By far. And it was a refreshing one because you got another Judge first inning home run, which he led the majors last year with 20 of those. And it's just something, it's nice to see, especially when your team's down. I feel like a lot of those first inning home runs, it's a nothing game, and he just sets the tone. But in a game where Xavier Edwards was able to get a hold of one early, and he immediately just puts that exclamation point on a first inning and just goes, yeah, we're getting it right back. 2-1 us. That's it. Business as usual. So it was nice to see. Now, to go on to game 2, this was a bit of a scary one. Yankees end up winning it 9-7, but they definitely had to do a lot more work offensively, especially, and the pitching was definitely tested. Ryan Weathers going up against his former team, the team that traded him here in the offseason. He only went 3 2/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts in 88 pitches in that entire outing. Max Meyer didn't have too great of an outing himself. Definitely was not as poor as Ryan Weathers' outing. But again, the Yankees did get the win. We'll go through the entire game, but just want to get your thoughts, Andrew. This is the second start we've seen from Weathers, and out of the two, definitely the worst of the two.
Yeah, it's just not what I wanted to see from Ryan Weathers this far. Just too many pitches in that first game, and then again in the second game, he somehow did it even worse. I think he had 44 pitches in the first 2 innings of his first start, and then you were kind of like going into this game, it was like, okay, like 44 pitches, that's a lot. Like he can't do that again, and he didn't do it again. To his credit, he just had 55 pitches in the first 2 innings this time. So it was kind of like you can't really go deep into games when that happens, obviously. And he was getting lost in counts. Threw a lot more strikes, I felt like, in this game than he did the last time. I felt like he really built up his pitch count in the last game, just throwing balls. But I feel like in this game, batters were really working counts against him and actually getting more hits than walks. But yeah, just an overall problem, something you'd like to see him improve on. But yeah, the Yankees were tested in this game, down a couple times, and were able to come back and win the game. So yeah, this I think was my favorite game of the series.
Yeah, down 4-0 after the first 4 innings. They were definitely battle tested. They come back to win it 9-7. And yet again, another game where my MVP pick Bellinger had a pretty solid game, had a 2-run home run to get them kind of back into it, make it 4-2, and then had a sac fly back later on in the 6th inning. So he did have 3 runs batted in on the game, but it definitely took a lot, not just from Bellinger, but from the entire offense as a whole in this second game to catapult the comeback win.
Yeah, and we had another great defensive play, this time from Judge in right field at this point. And it honestly, a lot of people might not look at this game and they see it, and it's a 3-0 game at this point, and they might not look at this as something that really impacted the game because it ended up being 9-7. But Weathers is at 64 pitches already with 1 out in the 3rd, and he gives up this shot to right field, which, I mean, if this thing gets down, if this thing gets over the wall, I mean, that's more pitches, and that's just Judge being Judge. He's so comfortable out there in right field. But yeah, I thought that was a really big play to kind of show to everybody because who knows if that guy gets on base, what the game looks like. Every single at-bat makes the game different. Judge tracking that ball. Look at that guy. I don't think that would have gotten out, but still a nice catch. Saved extra bases at the least. So I thought that was really big. Maybe that settled Weathers down a little bit, was able to just get a couple more outs. But yeah, I thought being Judge there was huge.
And just look where that pitch is, too. If you just rewind it a couple seconds, I'm sure this on a 2-2 count, I'm sure this is not where Ryan Weathers wants to throw
Absolutely
that pitch either.
Middle.
It's big for a guy like Judge, no pun intended on big, but it's huge for him to come up in a spot like that where your pitcher's in a 2-2 count and they throw a pitch like that where it's just not supposed to be there. It leaks over the plate and they get good wood on it and you make a nice play in the outfield to get him out, because that cannot happen for Ryan Weathers going forward in 2-2 spots like that. You cannot throw fastballs middle in to anybody. I don't care which offense you're playing in the league, even if you're the bottom feeder of the league. It's just not a 2-2 pitch that you should be throwing. And now imagine a scenario where there's guys on base here and that pitch is over the middle like that. So it's nice to see Judge doing Judge things out there in right field, bailing out Ryan Weathers, who just did not have the greatest of starts. And we hope to see that he kind of settles in a bit. Like, don't forget, this is his first start in the Bronx. I'm sure there was a ton of pressure on him in this game. I'm sure he felt the emotions of him being out there. And not to mention his first damn start in his new ballpark is against his former team that arguably knows him the best, right? So you have to take that into account as well. So I do think that there's a lot in store for Ryan Weathers. I just think that he needs more time, obviously. And I think just with all the emotions of it being his first game at Yankee Stadium, I think that's a fair point to come across, to not to say excuse, but to understand the magnitude that start must have felt on him in those first couple of innings too. And then not to mention, he gets out to, it's a 4-0 game, right? And he immediately, the confidence is even lower, than where it was when it started. So Judge definitely reinstated some confidence in Weathers making that play. So that is a big play to highlight for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the kid's got nasty stuff. Even in the first inning, he let up a couple base runners, but he had 2 outs and he had a man on first and third, and then or he had a man on second, and then a guy bloops a single into right field at like 60-mile-an-hour exit velo on this like perfect changeup that he threw that continued the inning, and then next thing you know, it's a 2-run triple, right? So stuff happens fast. And after that Judge catch of the wall, there were 2 outs in the inning, no man on. He allowed a single and a walk, right? So if Judge doesn't make that play, who knows what happens. But yeah, I think Weathers is going to be fine. Not that the Yankees necessarily need somebody in this rotation to be bad, but they do need someone to replace, right? When these guys come back, and so far Weathers is kind of on the fence of guys that they're going to keep in the rotation once they get healthy.
So we got to the 5th inning. Marlins lead it 4-0. I kind of said that the Yankees came back from down 4-0, and it was the 5th inning that got it started. Cody Bellinger had the 2-run shot to get them on the board for his first home run for the first of many, I hope, this season for Cody Bellinger. Got it back on the board 4-2 with one swing of the bat, and we got that video prepped here too.
Yeah, I mean, just that is a Bellinger Yankee Stadium swing. I mean, that's what you want. I guess more of a Bellinger Yankee Stadium swing would be more down the line, but that's a bomb. I mean, I don't know how many home run ballparks this was a home run in, but yeah, he crushed that pitch. And there were 2 outs in the inning. Like, the Yankees were kind of dead. Judge rips a single, and then obviously Cody Bellinger fouls it up with this, and just like that, Yankee Stadium's alive again. This is their first night game at Yankee Stadium too, so yeah, nice to see. Yeah, I mean, Bellinger's just such a stud. You need that guy to just go off the whole year. And look at that. Whoa, did you see that? Look at Goldschmidt running up the steps to get involved there. I didn't even catch that the first time.
He was probably on his way to go take a pee. He's like, I gotta go.
Look, he's an older man. I mean, we forgive that. Look at it. He runs up the steps, high five, and he's right to hopping with the rest of the boys. I mean, that's just, I didn't even know. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Let's swing one more time. I want to see that butter swing one more time. Let's see.
Please, let's see it. Let's see it.
And a little high and in slider. You can't miss it there.
Slider. My God. You don't even throw that pitch in the video game, man. That's a terrible pitch.
Well, we do know some people that would throw that pitch in the video game, and we don't play with them anymore. But
no, we don't.
Yeah, because can't be throwing that pitch. I can't be telling you every time not to throw that pitch. It's just not worth the energy. But yeah, it's nice to see Bellinger get involved, and not to say that he hasn't been all season long. He's definitely had his fair share of hits in games, but just to be able to get the first one to go out, right? You always want to see that go as a hitter, and then you hope that the rest start to follow. That's kind of the lingo it goes with baseball. Once you see one go, the rest will follow. So it was nice to see him kind of get into the mix with that home run and to just catapult the Yankees back into the game, make it 4-2, and then. I know Ben Rice, Andrew, you mentioned he had another bad challenge. I'll let you talk about that one again.
Yeah, I do have the clip pulled up here. It was kind of like a similar pitch, if I remember correctly. Now, this is in the next inning. This is not the same inning as the Bellinger, this is right after Bellinger hit the home run. Right. Now, it's not an off-speed pitch, which the first one was, but again, at the bottom of the zone, 95, he challenges it. Would have been a walk if he got it right. But then just again, I mean, that is like 98% of the zone, if not 100. I mean, maybe just a little bit of that ball is off the edge, if that. But yeah, that's another one. That is not good. Now, he did end up walking on the next pitch, which was nice. And then Stanton walked on the next pitch too, or the next at bat. And then Jazz struck out to end the inning. So the Yankees closed it there in the 5th. But yeah, just not what you want to see. And again, if the first one, I'm glad to see at least that the first one, even though how bad it was, like, didn't like take down his confidence of challenging. This second one might do it because now that's two in a row. I don't think he had another challenge in the series other than those two. So he challenged two pitches and they're that bad. It,
No,
it,
that'll
it,
start to
it it's going to
it'll
start
start.
to hinder a little bit. You would think.
Yeah, it'll start to waver his confidence in challenging pitches, and that's kind of the opposite of what you want to happen. Like, you want your best hitters to feel confident and be able to challenge pitches in big spots like this, because you're right. In a 3-1 count, if that's overturned, you got a guy on base for Stanton, right? And now you got to see another pitch. And I mean, this one was closer to a ball than the other
But
one, but
that was a confident challenge too. I mean, if you go look back, I mean, bang, strike immediate. No way.
yeah, he was
No
ready
way
to
it's a
throw the
strike,
bat
right?
and go to first base.
Yeah, the first one he was kind of like, oh, and then he challenged it. But this one he was pretty confident about, and he was dead wrong. I mean, and he freaking
And he
knew it
makes a
too.
similar reaction too
Yeah,
as the first
yeah.
one.
How could you not? How could you
And these
not?
are back-to-back days. Don't forget the first one we
Back to
showed
back
was in
days.
game
Yep.
1. So now this is 2 games in a row, and it's both pitches low in the zone. So maybe this is an issue for Rice going forward, because it has happened twice now in a row. But you also I mean, you mentioned it. Maybe he just doesn't challenge a ton of pitches going forward until he really feels confident in another one. But again, he did feel pretty confident in this one, it seems. So we'll keep an eye on that as the season, kind of keeps going. But it is an interesting point because he's not the only one. I know Judge has spoken publicly about it, just saying how he really has to kind of get used to it. I mean, have we even seen Judge challenge a pitch yet at this
We
point?
haven't. We haven't.
No.
I talked about it last episode about there's so many pitches that he could have challenged that really swing the at bat one way or another, and he had a couple more of those this series that he didn't challenge. Just not fully comfortable with it yet. And yeah, I mean, going back to Rice, that's where they're going to pitch him now. You're putting up the numbers that Dylan showed earlier on the bottom of the screen. I mean, you put up those kind of numbers, and you're among the top hitters in baseball. Guess what? They're going to pitch you low. They're going to try and get you to swing over stuff. So it would be really huge if he could get down pat the bottom of the zone, which again, I really do think he does have it pretty good. His chase rate is not that high. It was high. It's higher this year than it was last year. So hopefully he cleans that up a little bit. But yeah, his strikeout percentage was below average last year. His walk rate was above average. So I know he sees the zone well. I just hope that these two pitches really don't hinder that.
So do you think that going forward, and not to get too sidetracked, but I do have a question. Like, do you think
Yeah,
teams
sure.
then purposely start to attack the bottom of the zone against Ben Rice in hopes that, one, he takes a potential a pitch that's a strike that maybe he challenges, and then you get the Yankees to burn a challenge, or because maybe you think he just second guesses the lower part of the zone, won't challenge it, and you get a free strike out of it? Like, do you think teams will start looking at that going forward?
I would not be shocked with how valuable he's shown to be in that Yankees lineup that teams won't start to take advantage of this if it becomes a real problem. Now, again, you're going to pitch to Ben Rice at the bottom of the zone because a hitter like that's where you want to miss. That's where you want to get guys to swing over. But yeah, I don't see a reason why, if this becomes an issue, that teams won't begin to strategize and look out for stuff like that.
Also, and speaking of pitching to Ben Rice, not to get too far ahead of our recap here, but in game 3, I mean, you had 2 guys on. What are you doing still pitching to Ben Rice at this point, and how he's just looked this year? And they made him pay. We'll get to that, but it surely will start to be a question whether teams start to pitch to Ben Rice, which then opens the conversation to guys later in the order having to come up big, which we'll also touch on. The bottom of the order not playing too great in this series overall, and we'll throw the numbers towards you once we get to that point towards the end of the series where we recap the 3 games overall. But just to stick with this game itself, so we mentioned the 2-run shot from Bellinger, the Ben Rice horrible challenge. You said that him and Stanton ended up both walking, right? Jazz struck out to end the inning. So then we get to the 6th inning. Paul Goldschmidt comes into the game to pinch hit for Wells, works a walk. Caballero hit by a pitch. Grisham comes through with a single that scored Goldschmidt. And then it made the game 4-3. And Goldschmidt was, I mean, talk about a couple games here where you're seeing some of the older guys that don't run too well just start showing off the wheels over. It was pretty incredible.
And we'll get to my favorite clip that I pulled up in a second. I don't have a clip of this prepared, unfortunately, but yeah, Goldschmidt was chugging, and maybe it was when he emptied the tank when he was down the stairs, or maybe he got his cardio in when he ran up the stairs on the Bellinger home run that really did well for him. But yeah, he was chugging, and he came off the bench cold and worked a nice walk. and pretty early in the game. I mean, there's not a lot of times you see a pinch hitter come in the bottom of the sixth, especially for the Yankees. So Goldschmidt got in and he took advantage of his opportunity.
Maybe he was doing wind sprints. In the video where Belly hit the home run, he was down in the tunnel. Maybe he wasn't going to the bathroom. He was getting wind sprints in. Boone told him, hey, listen, you're going to be up here in a couple innings, so just start stretching out. Maybe he was doing some suicides down the hallway, and he's like, oh, we hit a home run. Let's turn around.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, we mentioned the Bellinger home run in the bottom of the fifth, and then the bottom of the sixth. Again, Judge ripped a single, his second single of the game, which made it 4-4, and then Bellinger got up again in a big spot with a chance to take the lead, and then he did with a sac fly to make it 5-4. And then in the bottom of the seventh, the Yankees were able to hold the Marlins in the top of the seventh. My favorite montage of the day is Giancarlo Stanton. I'm just going to play this for you guys, and I'm just going to let you watch exactly what Giancarlo Stanton is here to do. He's just showing off his value in so many different ways. Okay, so here, there's a 3-1 pitch, bang, he walks. Now he's on first base. Nice
and the infamous Stanton strut, by the way.
Yes, of course. Look at that. Oh. Speechless. Absolutely speechless. This guy is so shocked by it that he wants to review. He wants to review. I mean, if I was this pitcher, this is the last thing that would be on my mind. And look how slow Agustin Ramirez, former Yankee catcher, by the way, gets off that knee. I mean, look how shocked he is that he has to even do that. Stanton steals his first regular season base since 2020. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then you have Escara.
Was that Ramirez or was that Hicks back there?
Is that Hicks? I thought it was Ramirez. That could be Hicks. It could be Hicks. I thought that was Ramirez.
Because I felt like they showed close-ups of them after they kept stealing bags, and I thought it was Hicks. It looked like Hicks back there.
Hicks did come in at some point in this game. I don't know if he's in right now.
Okay.
Either way, I mean, just took so long to get off of that knee of his. Stanton steals his first base.
Our grandpa gets off the sofa quicker than that.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday on Easter Sunday too. Then Escara grounds out here. Stanton speed moves over to third, and then bang. Pass ball, Stanton scores. I mean, that was the Stanton around the bases. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And those runs meant a lot. You know, you think, oh, it's 6-4, does it really? I mean, those runs ended up meaning a lot. And I do think towards the end, we can kind of see.
Look at Boone's smile right there when he gets in the dugout, by the way.
Yeah, we could see the catcher pull off his helmet. I do think that was Agustin Ramirez.
I think you're right. I think you are right.
But I mean, who's happier to see? I mean, look at him. He's like, oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that since I was, like 8 years younger.
Actually, unbelievable.
It was his first regular season stolen base since 2020. I mean,
6 years. 6 years, yeah. That's crazy.
I think his first overall stolen base, including like the playoffs since
that
2023.
That is a play that, the Yankees have a new first base coach this year. If that did not work, I don't know if that first base coach is coming back. I mean, that is like, it's so unexpected that it's awesome,
Yeah, no, and obviously they did their homework on Ramirez just having a slower throw time from behind the dish, because why else are you sending him to second base? A guy that doesn't steal bags, that doesn't accelerate either.
It's a mix of everything. No slide step from the pitcher. You see how slow Agustin Ramirez was getting off. I would be slow too. I wouldn't even be thinking I had to get up, even if there was a guy on base. If there was a fast guy on base, he would have been so much quicker. Like, you're just sitting there, not even expecting it. You're almost sitting there as a catcher, like there's no men on base at that point with the steal. So yeah, just crazy impressive.
I think they also they weren't holding him on either, which is why I believe he got the confidence to steal this base, because no one was holding him on, and so his lead just kept getting bigger and bigger. And it was on the first pitch. He didn't even wait. He just went on the very first pitch of that at bat
right
and
away.
Took advantage. So credit to Stanton for seeing that, whether it was him or the first base coach or both of them, just saying like, hey, they're not holding me on. Let's take advantage and let's go for it. And that is a ballsy play down or only up one run late in this game, because go back, how many outs were there when he got on? Was it 2 outs, right? No outs. So you're in a 1-run game. I understand you're up a run, but now there's 1 out. So there was an at bat after him. Someone got out, and to take a bag to potentially make it 2 outs, nobody on, right? For Escara, who is not the greatest of hitters, right? So it was a bit of a ballsy move in general. So I was, I'll give him credit when it's due, for sure.
Yeah, really insane. Yeah, so then, I mean, then the pesky Marlins, and we talked about it in the top of the 8th. That didn't, you would think a momentum move like that, you have Stanton stealing bases on you and running home on you, that might, basically shut you down as a team. I mean, how do you respond to that? But they did. Camilo Doval had a rough outing. He allowed a single, two doubles. So it's now a tie game going into the bottom of the eighth. But the Yankees were able to just work walks. I mean, that's all they did. All series was work walks. And this game, especially in this inning, I mean, McMahon walked, Rice walked, Judge walked. That loaded the bases for Stanton, who got up in another big spot. And man, he ripped a single right up the middle, made it 8-6 Yankees. They eventually had a pass ball that would score Rice as well, which made it 9-6 at the end of the eighth. But Stanton, man, I mean, just every opportunity he's gotten this season, he's just been really good. I think he was 0 for 5 in game one, but then after that, I think he was on 5 times the rest of the series. So just really awesome to see Stanton, firing on all cylinders.
And to give you his numbers, 394 average, that's 7th in the majors, a home run, 6 RBI, and a 974 OPS, which ranks 24th in the league. And now add a stolen base to his line this year. So it just to see him contribute, we know that he is an all-class player, and he is just really, really good when he can figure it out. And it's nice to see a year in which he's starting the year. I mean, I guess Stanton's never really healthy per se, but to see him not being super banged up, not being banged up this early in the year, knock on wood, right? And to have him start out as hot as he has been, and to recognize situations like that where he can steal a base, put himself in a position where he can score what ended up being a crucial run in the game, and then in a big at bat later on, like you mentioned, be able to knock in a run with the single and to extend the lead for the Yankees. He's been a really, really good, just really good overall player. For a guy who doesn't play defense, this is where he needs to make his day, right? To make it worth his contract. And he's been doing a great job.
And you pointed out he's got a 400 average and only 1 home run, right? And that's not the Stanton that we know, at least as of late. When he's hitting the ball and he's hitting for a high average, a lot of those are going to be huge home runs, home run after home run after home run when he's really, really hot. So to see him have basically a 400 average for just 1 home run, the bombs are going to come, right? It's just what does he do in between each home run? And so far, it's been pretty special. So now it's the bottom of the eighth. The eighth is concluded. It's the top of the ninth. 9-6 Yankees. You're thinking, oh my God, the momentum is all on our side. How could this go wrong? We got our closer in the game. Jazz is probably feeling too comfortable as well, which we're allowed to as fans feel comfortable. He's not. Fields it, just takes way too long. I mean, way too long to throw that ball. Boone mentioned
it's inexcusable.
He didn't know. Inexcusable. Boone mentioned after the game he didn't know whether he was going to talk to Jazz about this or not, because he didn't know if it was a big deal. But I mean, look, he gathers there. The guy was halfway down the line when it reached Jazz? Not even. Now, they did show a close-up at this moment in time right here. Jazz is bobbling the ball slightly, but still, you could bobble it 3 times at this pace, and you shouldn't be able to.
Right there, he's got it. It's got to go.
It's got.
And the throw was not hard either. It was a loopy throw.
Yeah, and for a not much team like this that just showed you after Stanton ran around the bases on them that they easily just got right back in the game, made it 6-6. This is not a team you want to give up free bases to. It reminds me, and I know this is going to be a really insane sentence to say out loud because this team went to the World Series last year, but in a way they remind me of the Blue Jays lineup. Just not an easy out there, and just pesky, and it's a team you can't give away free bases to. So Bednar, who was going to turn into just a 1 easy out in the ninth, now has a man on with no outs, and of course it didn't end easy. He walked Hicks, Edwards singled, made it 9-7. Eventually, he would close it out with a couple strikeouts, but it's just not what you wanted to see from Jazz. And he does just have these tendencies sometimes to just be a little lackluster, a little out of the game. But when he's in, he's really fun. It's just we need him more consistently showing that he could do it.
Yeah, and you said that Boone said he wasn't sure if he was going to talk to Jazz because he wasn't sure if it was a big deal. Well, I mean, in hindsight, that's easy to say when you win the damn game. If you lose the game because of that kind of a boneheaded play, if you're not talking to the player to tell him like, hey, you fucked up, like we got to clean that up. And the biggest problem I have with it is that it's not like it was a situation where they pinch hit for Otto Lopez and they put someone else in the game, or let's just say maybe they pinch hit for a guy and they put in a faster hitter and you mentally just didn't like put it together, right? This was Otto Lopez's 5th at bat of the game. Otto Lopez is a fast guy, one of the fast guys on this team that they have. Like, you have to know who's up in that spot. It's the 5th time he's been up. So you cannot mistaken him for somebody else. You have to just know. And I understand he bobbled the ball. And that's another thing. if you're bobbling the ball, you have to know, okay, he's going to be there quicker than it would have been if I fielded it cleanly. So you have to know these things. And I understand it's only at the time game 8 of the season. But again, these are plays that if they happen in game 2 of the World Series, I mean, you're just never going to forgive a guy for making a play like that. And it has to be cleaned up in these games early on in the year. It has to be corrected so that it doesn't happen in the games that matter the most, so that we're not nitpicking and talking about plays in certain games in the playoffs, whether it be the World Series, the ALDS, it doesn't really matter. If it's in October baseball and plays like that are happening, that's what's going to keep this team from winning a championship. And it's what's frustrating because we talk about the window with Judge winning a whole thing like that. And it's plays like this that could potentially hold this team back from winning big games in big spots. Not to get too far ahead, but it's just, it is a bit troublesome. So hopefully Jazz cleans that up. I'm sure he apologized to Bednar. I'd be surprised if he didn't after the game at some point, and I would hope he apologized to the team in some way. Because, I mean, we saw across town what happened with Lindor like a couple games ago where he thought there was 2 outs and he just stepped on second, didn't throw to first, and then he got picked off at first. So you definitely want to – I guess if anything, you would rather it happen now, game 8 this season, and not game 160th going into the postseason. But it just can't happen overall, especially a guy like Jazz looking for a contract extension with, I assume, the Yankees going forward. These are plays that have to be cleaned up.
Yep, have to be cleaned up for sure.
So
now
the
we
Yankees,
step into game 3.
Yeah, go for it. So game 3, the Yankees, it was the only loss of the series for the Yankees. It was the Max Fried bump day. So a game in which myself included, a lot of people thought the Yankees would be able to get the sweep just based on what we've seen from Fried this year. And he did have a solid start. But to your point, Andrew, about the Marlins not being an easy out in that sense, they worked 3 walks against Fried, only 4 strikeouts in 6 2/3 innings. So that's an impressive number just to strike out only 4 times through essentially 7 innings of work against the guy seeing 100 pitches. So they did their number on Fried. But to Fried's credit, he stayed in the game long. But the Marlins hitters, they were able to kind of just do enough, create enough traffic to put themselves in spots to ultimately win this game.
Yeah, to Fried's credit, like especially because to see him go 6 2/3. Now, obviously, it wasn't his strongest 6 2/3, but to see him go 6 2/3 after a 4-hour rain delay, you think you're pitching at 135, and then all of a sudden you're pitching at 510. I mean, that's incredible. It's honestly so incredible to the point where the Marlins had to take Chris Paddock out of the starting job initially in the game. They ended up putting in Pete Fairbanks with the Yankees. Did some work on him. But yeah, I was really excited about this Max Fried versus Chris Paddock matchup. And I think if they've got the 130 start and it was Max Fried versus Chris Paddock, we would have tuned up Chris Paddock a little bit more. But yeah, it just pretty impressive to almost go 7 innings when you're pitching 4 hours after you thought you were supposed to.
And so we go to the first inning of this game, and former Yankee Austin Slater, that name might remind you to some, starts the game off with a single to left, and then Fried got Ramirez to strike out. And we talked before the series how Ramirez has really been struggling in this year, and it kind of just carried through this series. So Ramirez hasn't really picked it up for them. Then he got Marcy to strike out swinging, and now you have a guy on first, 2 outs, but Lopez was able to, or Slater did steal second base on that second strikeout, I should say, or the first strikeout. So now you got a guy on second base, 2 outs. And Otto Lopez, the guy we were just talking about that was able to run out that ground ball to Jazz in the 9th of game 2, able to get the single up the middle for the RBI single to get it started. So Max Fried in a bit of trouble to start the game, got 2 outs, but then was unable to get Otto Lopez out.
Yeah, and then the Yankees in the bottom of the first. I mean, Pete Fairbanks is a closer, if you guys don't know. So him being in the bottom of the first is kind of odd, but he did
formerly of the Rays too. If that name's familiar to some, he
Yep.
used to be a Tampa Bay Ray.
He used to be a Tampa Bay Ray, stayed with Florida, went to Miami. Yankees jumped on him in the first. Grisham earned another walk, which they've been doing all series long. Aaron Judge singled, so you got 2 on right away. Bellinger got out, but then Ben Rice, and then you previewed this before. I mean, they pitched to Ben Rice, and he smacked a homer. His second homer of the series made it 3-1.
I don't get why they're pitching to him in those spots. I really don't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. I think we're going to see some adjustments real quick because Ben Rice he opened some eyes last year for a lot of people, but I think this year it's reaching more of a national stage. Locally last year we knew Ben Rice, as Yankee fans, we kind of knew that, this kid could be pretty good. But now I think it's starting to reach, the national airwaves a little bit. And then in the bottom of the second, I highlighted this because I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because it adds to what we're going to talk about with the bottom of the lineup. Brian McMahon struck out, and at this point, this made it 0 for 20 with 11 strikeouts since his first hit that he had in his first at bat of the season. So he's 0 for 20 since then with 11 strikeouts. And then in the bottom of the third, Chris Paddock is now in the game. Judge doubled, Bellinger walked, Ben Rice reached on a throwing error by the Marlins. Judge scored, so now it's 4-1 Yankees. The Yankees are kind of coasting, on a Sunday, 4-1. But those pesky Marlins, man, they responded in the next inning with an RBI double, made it 4-2. And then at the top of the sixth, they reached on a fielder's choice that included a throwing error by Caballero. Caballero probably would have gotten him out had he not thrown it over Ben Rice's head. Ben Rice did get to it, so it didn't get by him, but that made it 4-3. Max Fried then after that was able to ignore that first and third, no outs. Got a pick off at first. They had a grounder to Caballero. He chucked the guy out at home, and then a ground out of Edwards. So top of the sixth, they're still leading. And then I've highlighted the Ryan McMahon thing because he did break that in the bottom of the sixth with a single. Didn't go anywhere for the Yankees. But yeah, just not what you want to see from the bottom of the order as a whole, but especially Ryan McMahon, because we saw or we heard this spring training that he made some adjustments. His front leg step is not as high. He's kind of timing it more. He's not really stepping. He's kind of like pointing his toe a little bit more. And we thought that was going to lead to more contact because he did say himself he needs to limit the strikeouts. And we haven't seen it so far. So I am a little concerned about our third baseman.
Yeah, to say the least. Ryan McMahon is not who I want out there right now, to be honest with you. I mean, I've told you off recordings and stuff when we're watching games. I understand he's out there as a defender, but even his defense has not looked what it should be. And I think Ahmed Rosario should be given a bigger opportunity at third. I don't like his bat right now. And I know in a perfect world it would work with the short porch, but if he's not putting the bat on the ball, which was the big no-no of his game, is that he's just a high strikeout guy that's going to hit 200. At that point, I don't really mind seeing Ahmed Rosario go against righties, for the foreseeable future, because at least he puts the bat on the ball. He forces the defense to make a play to get him out. McMahon makes it super simple. Just get him just throw the slider like enough under the zone. He's going to fan right through it. Little chances, little times does he go down and fish a ball in the dirt and slap it for a single. So I've kind of had my fill. I understand it's only 9 games through, but this is also just a continuation from when they got him last year. And now it's carrying over this year. And I just don't see him being much better of a hitter. Like we knew him when they traded for him last year. Again, we knew he was a big strikeout guy, and his hitting numbers weren't all that great in Colorado, where it should be. Like your numbers should be through the roof there compared to other stadiums, and it just wasn't there. So we kind of had an inkling that he was not going to live up to what we all hoped he would be. So I think the conversation should be there. I also do think that means the Yankees maybe go out and acquire somebody at the deadline that can hit right-handed hitting and that can play third base, because given their track record, and their meaning Boone track record, he doesn't like doing righty on righty matchups a ton, especially with a guy like Ahmed Rosario, and same with Goldschmidt. And we'll have that discussion because in this game that is pretty relevant. I would expect him to go out and get another left-handed hitting third baseman to fill in that spot. I don't have a name for you right now. I don't know who would be available. It's too early to tell, but I just think that right now that's probably one of the big to-dos on their list going forward.
Yeah, it is April 6th, and we still haven't seen what we're going to get from Volpe so far as shortstop. But yeah, I would think the left side of the infield is going to be a focus for them at the deadline at some capacity. Ryan McMahon's, he's not making a huge chunk of money, but he's not a cheap guy either. What I do like about McMahon is obviously he plays stellar defense, even though he's not hitting. And I do worry about how valuable Ahmed Rosario would be out there fielding wise. And how valuable he would be against right-handed pitching. So I'm not confident in that switch just yet. But yeah, it can't get any worse than Ryan McMahon, right? I mean, you put Ahmed Rosario out there, even if he goes 1 for 18, that's still better than what Ryan McMahon has been showing so far. So I'm curious to see what they do going forward. But yeah, I do think the left side of the infield is going to be a focus for them at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and Rosario had the pinch hit at bat in that Mariners series, the only other loss of their season thus far, 2-1. He had the RBI sac fly late in that game in a pinch hit spot. So I just like his bat on ball skills. I think it provides more value every night. But again, I do understand that there's a reason he's a bench player, and he has been for multiple teams over the last couple of seasons, even before he was with the Yankees. So I do understand that. I think this is a good time, Andrew, too, to segue to, and we'll finish the recap of this game, but I think this is a good point to segue to just how much the bottom of the order really struggled in this game. The 6 through 9 batters, 4 for 34 in the series, just not what you want to see. And we highlighted in that first series too how good they were playing and how important that was going to be, obviously in October, but for the remainder of the season if Judge and Stanton get into cold spells throughout the year.
Yeah, you mentioned 4 for 34. I mean, that's not bad. That's putrid. And it's not what you want. And it's a good thing that the Marlins were so willing to walk a lot of batters because those guys did get on 8 times because of that. And they had 2 RBIs too in that 4 for 34, but those 2 RBIs, and we're going to get to this, came in the ninth inning of game three from Jazz Chisholm with 2 outs. So you take away that one at bat, the final at bat of the series. I mean, they don't even drive a run in the entire series. So yeah, 15 strikeouts in those 34 at bats too. Just that's not what you want to see. Now it's nice to see the Yankees score 23 runs in a series where essentially almost half their lineup is not there. That is nice to see, but you'd rather almost see, like we pointed out earlier in previous episodes, you'd rather see like the bottom of the order be responsible for the majority of those 23 runs because you know the top of the order is going to be there. You know, Stanton, Rice, Bellinger, Grisham, Judge, they're going to do their thing. So when the Yankees need their bottom of the order, we need that. Now, they didn't need their bottom of the order a ton in this series because the top of the order, again, was doing so much. But I'd like to see when it's relying on the bottom of the order more, you know, if they're going to get it done. But yeah, just a terrible series for them. Terrible.
Yeah, no, just I mean, 4 for 34, and again, it brings me back to the McMahon point. You just need guys to put the bat in the ball, and I don't know how many strikeouts of the 15 McMahon accounted for, but I can guarantee you it was at least 5. You know, so a third of those strikeouts coming from one guy, it's not ideal. So I just, again, it is April 6th. They do have a series coming up against the A's, and he will have plenty of opportunities to right the wrongs of this early going. That's not what I see happening going forward. But yeah, to just go all in with the rest of this game. Which point did we leave off? It was 7-6. So Fried's out of this game at this point.
Yes, it's 4-3. We mentioned that Ryan McMahon, he broke that streak of 0 for 20 or whatever with a single. So now we're in the top of the 7th, which Fried records 2 outs. And then they pull him at 6 2/3, like we mentioned before. Cruz comes in, he gets the final out, and then in the top of the 8th, he gets the first out of that inning as well. And that's when they decide to go a different direction. When Jake Bird comes in and he allows 3 runs on a walk, a hit by pitch, a double, a single. His final line, he didn't record a single out. He had 3 earned runs, 1 hit, 1 walk. So that's not what you want to see from a guy like Jake Bird either, who they're going to need a lot of innings from. The bullpen as a whole didn't really perform too well. You had Doval who had a scary moment, a scary outing. You had Bednar, who had a scary moment, another high pitch outing for him. And obviously now you had Jake Bird in this game 3 who didn't have a good outing. So those are 3 guys that you're going to need to do really, really well. Thankfully, Fernando Cruz has been pretty steady for them because if he was a problem, then I don't know if the Yankees win 2 of these games in the series. But yeah, then we head to the bottom of the 8th. The Yankees don't do anything. The top of the 9th, the Yankees keep it the same at 7-4. They give themselves a chance, and they actually do make it a game in the 9th. They had the go-ahead run at first base in the 9th after Jazz hit a 2-run double that made it 7-6. The Yankees decide to take out Jose Caballero, put in J.C. Escarra off their bench, the only lefty, to face the righty Bender, and he unfortunately strikes out with men on first and second. But yeah, I mean, the series as a whole, it was a good series. It's nice to see the Yankees score, as I mentioned, 23 runs in a series. They scored 24 in their previous 6 games. So it was nice to see the offense be the reason they won the series instead of the pitching.
Right.
But yeah, the bottom of the order concerns me. It really does. And not to harp on it too much, but again, you're going to need those guys. So I really hope that doesn't continue. We're going to have a different look at it eventually when Volpe comes back. I don't know how much better he's going to be than Jose Caballero. I know you and I have discussed off camera that we kind of hoped Jose Caballero would run away with this job a little bit more.
Yep.
You know, he has an opportunity here to become the starting shortstop of the New York Yankees, and he has not shown it at all. The defense has been nice. Him and Jazz have been pretty smooth up the middle, turning a lot of double plays, which has been nice to see. But with the bat, I mean, he's not been good, and he's not even been working walks really. I mean, in this series, everybody was working walks, but he hasn't really been getting on base all that much. Obviously, McMahon's had his struggles. Austin Wells has not been very good as well. We mentioned he got pinch hit for in the 6th inning of a game for Paul Goldschmidt. So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigates the rest of the season because, yeah, I don't think it's going to get much better. They're not going to go out and get really a guy that you believe in until probably the trade deadline. So we're going to need to see some of these guys maybe outplay their numbers a little bit right now.
And the issue is, if Volpe were to take the position back, you're replacing him. You're replacing Caballero with a guy who's going to hit 240 and at best 260, right in that range. So it's not like
If
you're
that,
really
I'd take
upgrading a ton.
260.
I mean, you would take that's at best, but you're realistically going to get anywhere from 220 to probably 240. And so that's your replacement option, and it's not great. And for what we're talking about, where offense is the issue in those spots, we're not really getting an upgrade, in quite frankly, which is why we both hope that Caballero would show flashes of better offensive production. Not to say that Volpe doesn't provide power, because he can hit 20 home runs in a season, and he's shown that. But again, hitting at that 230 mark and then pairing that with not walking a ton either, and him pretty much just being home run or nothing, it's not great. And what I wanted to ask you about and talk about is the Escara pinch hit decision. Now, I'm not blaming Boone. Again, this is only game 9, but it is a questionable decision, one that I don't agree with. And I think I think I'm within my right to disagree with his decisions. Again, and this comes back to my point about Ahmed Rosario and the righty on righty stuff, and me not really having as much weight on that as I do with just McMahon going up there and striking out almost every at bat. I'd rather just have a guy up there that can be up there and give you a somewhat competitive at bat. And I think in that spot, a guy like Escara, who doesn't play often to begin with, he plays once every 2 or 3 games. He's not known for his bat to begin with. And you have a former MVP on your bench. And I know he's older, and I know he's not nearly the same MVP caliber player he once was, but he is a guy that can put the bat on the ball, can choke up on the bat, can go dig a ball out of the dirt and, hit a little lofter to shallow left or center, right field, whatever it is, in Goldschmidt. And I just think that putting up a guy in a spot like that to potentially tie the game, you're better suited going forward than putting up a guy like JC Escara, just simply because it's lefty on righty. I understand you see maybe some more favorable pitches. You make the pitcher a tad bit more uncomfortable. But in my opinion, if I'm the pitcher, and Andrew, you used to pitch growing up and stuff, playing in high school, be honest with me, wouldn't you rather face JC Escara than Paul Goldschmidt? Just based on knowing what Goldschmidt can do, what he's done, you would not want to face a guy like Paul Goldschmidt or even a guy like Grichuk. You'd rather face JC Escara. So I think that was a big gripe I had in this game. Not to say that those guys would have come through and they would have won the game and it all would have been fixed. I just don't think JC Escara should be in that spot.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. I don't know overall, JC Escara, Paul Goldschmidt, where I'm at with pinch hitting these days. It rarely works, in my opinion. I know Jose Caballero hasn't given you really anything all year and really hadn't given them anything all night, but he's had 3 or 4 at-bats under his belt, right, going into that final at-bat. So do you trust a guy like that, even in that spot, who hasn't been hitting well, just is not coming off the bench cold and is seen pitching to maybe get a hit there? I don't know where they go. I'm always in favor, I think, of the lefty-righty matchup, because I think it does make a difference. But, yeah, for a guy like JC Escara, who just hasn't been really that good and really doesn't play that often, it is an interesting decision. I do think that they probably won't go. You probably won't see them pinch hit Paul Goldschmidt against any righties this season. I do think it's an interesting point just because he's a veteran and he's been there before. But yeah, I don't know where I'm at with pinch hitting.
I get that, but it's but at some point you have to value. I understand the number, but that's my thing. What is JC Escara's numbers against righties? I mean, we're comparing what Goldschmidt's 670 OPS to Escara's 690 OPS. Is that really that big of a difference to you? And I'm not picking on you specifically, but you're absolutely right. This is what they're looking at. And in my opinion, I don't have the numbers in front of me. So if Escara all of a sudden is an 850 OPS guy against righties, I'll shut up. But I just don't think that's what it is. And so how much of a difference are we talking in terms of OPS versus righties? It's not that big of a difference.
Right now, versus righties as a lefty, he's 572 OPS.
And Goldschmidt, you would say, is no lower than that. No, probably around the 600 mark.
Yeah,
maybe higher.
I would probably say in the 600s. Yeah, I could look it up real quick, but I'd probably say in the 600s.
Right. So to me, and even if it's at the same point, if it's at the same number, again, wouldn't you rather just have a guy like Goldschmidt that has a million more at bats under his belt? He just knows. That's what he's on this team to do. He's a platoon player that's going to hit against lefties, and I understand that. But when you bring him in, he's a veteran guy that's been in almost every situation in baseball that it can present to you at the plate. And you're putting a guy up there in Escara that's just not nearly the pedigree of a hitter that Goldschmidt is in his entire career. So if it's about righty on lefty matchup and the numbers against righties, I don't want to hear that Paul Goldschmidt should only face lefties when we're putting up a guy that has a what'd you say, 540, 542?
Yeah, around there, yes.
OPS against righties. So I can't imagine Goldschmidt's OPS is much worse than
Now,
that. So
I haven't looked at the numbers for Anthony Bender, who was in the game, but I mean, they intentionally walked Austin Wells to get to a righty. I mean, that Austin Wells hasn't been hitting well either, and they didn't like that matchup either of going against a lefty for Bender, and they decided to intentionally walk him just to face a righty. They ended up obviously facing a lefty, but yeah, it's an interesting point. Again, I don't think JC Escarra is probably good enough to be pinch hitting in that spot. I just don't know if there would have been like that much of a better option. Yes, I agree with you that Paul Goldschmidt probably gives you a better at bat in that situation. I just don't know if the result ends up any different.
no, I just think that if you're Aaron Boone, I'll be honest with you. I think if you're Aaron Boone and you put Paul Goldschmidt in that spot and he does the same thing that Escarra does, I just don't think you get questioned for that move. I really don't. Like,
Yeah,
I think
probably not.
Escarra, you put yourself in a position of question where everyone goes, why are you putting him in? Like, if you put your best bench guy in and he just doesn't show up, I think that would be a dumb question for someone to ask Boone. Like, why are you putting a two-time MVP type of player that, in his career in baseball? Why are you
Yeah.
putting him up in that spot? Like, I don't think anyone would argue that decision.
I think if I was Boone in that situation, I think I would have just stayed with Caballero, as bad as he's been, just because I think
And
I
I would
value it
agree.
at that point. If you don't have a guy who's a stud against right-handed pitching, or a guy that's a stud in that scenario in any which way, I think you just leave in the guy that's been facing pitching for 3 hours already. I think
Yeah,
that's just
I
the way to
agree.
go.
I agree. I think the best case scenario would have been to pinch hit him for either Grichuk or Goldschmidt. I would have preferred Goldschmidt, and then just keeping Caballero in. I don't even think Escarra was an option at that. I wouldn't even have thought about putting him in if it were up to me. But again, I'm not being paid to make these decisions, obviously. But and it is only game 9, and the Yankees did end up losing this game. And you could argue, Jake Bird lost in this game and not that moment at the end. And the game was kind of out of reach, and then Chisholm kind of made it a game. So anyway, not to nitpick too much, but it is going, and I hope Boone learns from that decision, and maybe we'll see games down the line. If there's a righty pitching, right, and similar bench guys are available, maybe we'll see a different guy chosen next time. And I doubt it, because they are so involved on those lefty righty matchups, not just with pinch hitting, but with setting the overall lineup before the game starts too. So it would surprise me if they do kind of change their tune a bit, but it will be interesting to see if they ever do down the line. So, but yeah, the Yankees losing this one 7-6, now 7-2 on the season. Now let's get to our series MVP picks, Andrew. Now we had each of our picks, right? I picked Cody Bellinger. He had a tremendous series in the field with that one big play. On the series as a whole, he finished 2 for 9, so 222 average, a home run, a double, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored. He worked 5 walks and did not strike out at all. And I mentioned the big catch in game 1. So it was looking good from game 1. And then game 2, we had the 2-run home run to get him back in the game, had the sac fly. It was looking pretty good. But sometimes you just can't argue with Aaron James. Judge, you had Trent Grisham. I'll let you explain all his numbers and stuff. But my pick for how it all panned out was Aaron Judge. I thought he had a tremendous series, and it was a much needed one because he was catching too much heat on that road trip out west, not playing his greatest of baseball, striking out too many times, and everyone was letting him hear it, and he took it like a champ, and he showed up in this series going 6 for 12. For those who can't do math, 500 average, a home run, a double, 4 RBIs, scored 6 runs, stole a base, worked 2 walks, and struck out only twice. So to me, the strikeout numbers went way down, especially since we saw in that first 2 series where it seemed most of his outs were strikeouts. Only 2 of them were strikeouts in this 3-game set. I just thought he had a really, really nice series, and he had that nice catch out in right field that we showed earlier when Ryan Weathers was pitching in that second game. So I just thought he had the best complete series overall for the Yankees. So that's my series MVP. Aaron Judge.
Yeah, if I had a first pick at it, I probably would have picked Aaron Judge too. You mentioned I picked Trent Grisham last week. He went 1 for 9. That's a 111 average with a single, 2 RBIs, 3 runs, 6 walks, which I was really happy about, and 3 strikeouts there. The walks would have been more impressive if the Yankees didn't walk 30 times in the series. But yeah, Trent Grisham, I thought maybe was going to poke a couple over the wall this weekend. He did not do that. Got on base a lot for Judge, though, which ended up being pretty big in most of those games. But my MVP is going to be arguably my favorite player behind Aaron Judge. It's going to be Ben Rice, who was 3 for 10 in the series, had 2 home runs, 3 extra base hits overall with a double as well, 6 RBIs, 2 more than Dylan's MVP pick, and 5 walks and 6 strikeouts. The strikeouts, we've mentioned a couple times, a little more concerning with Ben Rice just because he didn't do that a whole lot last year. But yeah, just a great series for him. And I thought it was really important. And we mentioned those 2 terrible, terrible ABS calls, that he was still able to bounce back and still contribute a lot. He contributed right after that in game 3, after that terrible challenge in game 2 with a homer in the first inning. Obviously, after the bad challenge in game 1, he had a double and a homer after that. So nice to see him bounce back after 2 bad challenges. But yeah, Ben Rice, what a series. What a series from our 2 guys.
Yeah, it was. And listen, no arguing with either of our picks there. It's a good problem to have when you're picking between those 2 guys to be your series MVP, looking at those numbers. But let us know down in the comments who you think was the series MVP. If you agree with both of our picks of Aaron Judge and Ben Rice, maybe there's a third guy we're not thinking of. Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's get to the series that's coming up next tomorrow night, the first game against the then Oakland Athletics. Now they're just the Athletics, looking to eventually move to Las Vegas. That stadium being built as we speak. And I don't know when the official time is going to be that it'll be ready to go, but they are just known as the A's of right now. They will be the Vegas A's soon enough. They come into this game tomorrow, 3-6 on the year. And the projected starters for game 1, Aaron Savale, Cam Schlittler. Game 2, familiar face in Luis Severino against Will Warren. And in game 3, Jeffrey Springs versus Ryan Weathers. So again, that last game, you kind of hope to see Ryan Weathers improve upon his 2 lackluster starts to start the year. You hope that some of the early emotions and nervousness of Yankee Stadium kind of goes away in the second start. It should be a good series. I do think the A's have a lot of young talent. I know you do think so as well, Andrew. They have a couple of guys that can really be game wreckers, that can run around the bases, can kind of similar to the Marlins, be just like pests, be hard outs. So I'll let you get into it. The A's coming into town this week.
Yes, and they have not been that team so far. You see they're 3-6 on the season. The only guy that's really been hitting really well for them, has been Shea Langoliers. I mean, he's just he's been absolutely insane. But yeah, they're guys. They've been striking out a ton.
They call him Shea Bangoliers for a reason.
Yeah, they do. He's been absolutely banging. Pause. He has been hitting very well. Some of those guys have been striking out too much. Nick Kurtz has been striking out a lot. Jacob Wilson, who's not really a strikeout guy, has been striking out a good amount. Soderstrom. So they're kind of limping into this series a little bit, almost nervously, in my opinion, because they have a ton of strikeouts, but man, that lineup has pop. And we mentioned them last week, kind of talking about the Marlins series. And I think it's a very similar team to the Marlins, not in style, because I think the Marlins are very pesky and they can walk and they can get on base and they can run all over you. But I just think in underrated value, I think they are a very underrated team in the American League. I personally would not be shocked if they were in the playoffs when it's all said and done, because I do think their lineup is that good. Their pitching is a little interesting to me. We see Savale in game 1 and Jeffrey Springs in game 3. I don't know about you guys. I definitely smiled, just seeing Severino's name coming back to the stadium. I mean, he's given us a lot of good memories. And I did do some research on how he's been against the Yankees since he's been away from them. 7 2/3 innings pitched in 2 starts, 12 earned runs, 16 hits, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts. So if we could do anything close to what we've done against him in his 2 starts against us, that's going to be pretty fun. We're not in Sacramento, which is where the balls really, really fly for us. But yeah, I don't know if they're called the Sacramento A's. I think they're just called the Athletics at this point. But yeah,
they're just the Athletics right now.
But yeah, it's going to be cool seeing Sevy come back to the stadium. It's his second time coming back to the Yankee Stadium since he left them for the Mets in 2024. But yeah, going to be cool to see him in game 2. And I think it's going to be a fun series. I do think this is not going to be as pesky of a team as the Marlins, but man, that short porch in right field, that might be a problem for the Yankees for once. The A's can certainly poke some balls out there.
And the good news is, for those who forgot, they traded Mason Miller last year to the Padres, so we don't have to worry about facing him late in games, throwing 103 at the top of the zone. So that's definitely a sigh of relief there for Yankee fans. But yeah, this should be a fun series, and ultimately it should be a 2 out of 3, if not a sweep, in my opinion, because the pitching matchups I do think favor the Yankees here, and I do have a lot of confidence in the offense going up against some of these guys. And listen, I like to pat myself on the back sometimes when I do some good research. I'll get into my MVP pick for my prediction for this series, but it has a lot to do with who they're going up against and just some familiarity with these pitchers, I do expect the offense to really have another great series and just to kind of bounce, to build off, I should say, this Miami Marlins series, have a really good series this week. So without further ado, Andrew, since I believe you picked first last time, right, for the
Yes.
Marlins series, I will go first because I don't want you stealing this guy. I don't want you stealing my nugget that of research that I found.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
because
I
you would be
hope
the
it's not
guy.
who I'm thinking of.
You would be the guy to dig this out of the ground of the research hole, and you would be able to
Mhm.
present it. And I just sit here and have not have a guy presented for you, not have someone prepared for you. So I am going to pick the speedster himself, Giancarlo Stanton. He will be the MVP of this series. And by that face you just made, I have a feeling that's who you were going to pick. And
That's who I was going to pick. And
we'll
when you
pat the
said
back.
speedster, I had a sigh of relief because, like, ironically, even though he was a speedster, I was not thinking that was who was going to follow that sentence.
No, yeah. Well, listen, he has a stolen base to his name, so he is a speedster through 9 games, 1 stolen base. To my eyes, that's a speedster. No, the reason the nugget of research I found was when I read Aaron Savale was pitching the first game. I said, why does that name sound familiar? Well, for those who don't remember, and Andrew and I, we were both at this game, so it certainly helped me remember it.
Yeah.
Game 5 of the 2022 ALDS against the Cleveland Guardians.
Yep.
That was the Harrison Bader year in the ALCS for those who forget. But in game 5 of the ALDS, Aaron Savale was the starting pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. And Giancarlo Stanton had a 3-run bomb. I believe it was in the first inning in that game. And just that was when it was immediately 3-0 Yanks, and they went on to win the game in game 5. And I just remember Savale giving up that home run. So I was like, okay, there's some history there. Stanton had a big home run against him. And then you mentioned all the numbers with Sevy. I just think so. Building off of that, I think everyone's going to have a good series against Sevy. And then Springs is a lefty. And we know how Stanton just crushes lefties. No matter how good they've been, he's just been better against lefties than most righties in this lineup. So that's my MVP pick. He's been great all year. So I don't expect him to all of a sudden fall off the face of the earth. I think he'll continue to build on, slapping singles, slapping doubles, hopefully some more home runs that will build my case up this series. But that's my pick, Giancarlo Stanton. Maybe, and if he gets another stolen base, I mean, he might wrap it up right there.
I'll tell you what, I love the pick. I love the pick because it was going to be my pick. So you know what? Since you stabbed me a little bit, I'm just going to take the easy way out. I'm going to go for the record here. I'm going to take Aaron Judge.
That's fine.
I really liked what I saw this weekend, limiting the strikeouts, just putting bat to ball. I think he went 6 for 12 in the series, but I think there were maybe 3 times where his outs were extremely loud. One of them I can remember right off the top of my head in right center field that Jacob Marcy for the Marlins played really beautifully. So I'll take him. He actually has a 1.1 OPS against Savali in 17 at-bats. He's got a 2.3 OPS against Severino in limited time. But yeah, I also saw Rice is 1-for-1 in his career against Aaron Savali with a homer. So that was nice to see. But yeah, I'll take the Judge. He looks like he's heating up. He's putting bat to ball. Trent Grisham has been working his way on base, which is only going to help him more. So yeah, you take Stanton. You'll take my pick. That's fine. I'll stab you in the back, and I'll take the easy 2-time MVP, maybe 3-peat this year in Aaron Judge.
And I feel like that's justified. And it's the first Judge pick of the year. I think you're getting him at a good time. But yeah, no, I apologize for the Stanton backstabbing.
That's okay. The speedster thing really got me because I was like, oh, okay, we're good now. But that's
no.
Fine.
If you think I'm picking Jazz or Jose Caballero at this point, I am not touching them with a 10-foot
My mind went right to Caballero.
No. That guy stinks. I'm not picking any of those guys at the bottom of the lineup. So definitely not happening. I learned my lesson with Wells in that Seattle Mariners series. But yeah, no. So I do think that one of our 2 guys will win. I will put that on the record. I don't think we'll be here next on Thursday or Friday. I don't think we'll be here saying someone else's name is the pick of the MVP for the series. I think it's one of these 2 guys. And if it's anyone else, I'd be very shocked. I would be. I do think that these 2 are in stride. I mean, we know Stanton has been in stride right now. And I think that Judge, building off that Marlins series, 6 for 12, just 2 strikeouts, really limiting. And you said he had a lot of hard hit outs. I think he'll be able to build off that, have himself a good A's series. Nice. So I do think that those are the 2.
I like that analysis. And to kind of close it out here, I want to share some stats from the last series that maybe we'll see in the next series. Maybe it'll continue. Maybe it'll discontinue. We mentioned the walks over and over again. They worked the Yankees against the Marlins 30 walks And the Marlins, just walked 9 batters in their first 2 series. Now, given against the White Sox and the Rockies, who aren't known to produce a ton of offense, but yeah, just tripled their walk count on the year in one series. And another thing that I thought was very interesting was, we've seen in the 2 series prior to the Marlins, the Yankees own ABS, but that was not the case in this series. They were owned by ABS in this series. They were 1 for 6 in pitch challenges this series. Obviously, we saw the 2 Rice terrible ones. The Marlins were 9 for 12. So the Marlins were really, really good with ABS, and we were really, really bad with ABS. The Marlins catchers between Hicks and Augustin Ramirez were just firing, man. They were just getting every single pitch right. So good on them. The Yankees in this series offensively scored 23 runs. In their previous 6 games combined, they scored 24. And the Yankees pitching allowed 16 runs in this series, just 6 in their previous 6 games. We mentioned the Yankees 6-9 batters went 4 for 34 with 15 strikeouts, 8 walks, and 2 RBIs. So yeah, just some things that maybe will carry over in the next series. Maybe not. Pitching getting a little worse, hitting getting a little better. We'll see if that continues. That's the A's.
And one more stat I'll throw at you. I think it was going into the first game of this series, the Marlins had the best bullpen in terms of runs allowed. They only had their bullpen had only given up 1 run going into that first game. The Yankees were, I believe, third with 4 runs allowed, the bullpen. So I thought the Yankees did a good job being able to attack the bullpen, get some runs in big spots. We mentioned in game 3, the Chisholm 2-run double to make it a game at the end. That was one of them just to highlight. I thought they did a great job attacking what was a hot bullpen going into that series and getting it done in what needed to be an offensive heavy series. So overall, good series for the Yankees. But that third game, you wish you could come away with that one for sure.
And just to throw out a name maybe for people to watch this upcoming week against the A's, Jeffrey Springs, who's going to be going against us in the third game, I believe. Heck, lefty's got some funk. He's got really good numbers against Judge too. I think Judge is only hitting 140 in several at bats. So he's got some funky stuff. A couple years ago, he was really, really good to start the year. And then I think he had Tommy John, and he's missed kind of the last year and a half. But Jeffrey Springs is kind of my player to watch for the A's.
Oh boy! And you just mentioned your MVP pick struggles against him, and my guy Stanton against lefties.
He's going to need to do some work in game 1 and game 2 because I don't think he's going to do so well against Jeffrey Springs. But I do trust Judge.
Well, Judge is the king of homering off former Yankee pitching. Just remember the Brewers last year when Nestor came back to town. I think he had an 8 RBI game in that first game. So yeah, safe to say against Sevy, maybe he'll make him pay. But it'll be a fun one. And we'll be back here on either Thursday night or Friday. We'll have the preview, the breakdown of the series like we've been doing with the first couple series this year. And we'll preview the upcoming series next weekend. Do you even know who they're playing the next weekend? I don't even recall who they're playing.
I'm bad with that. I usually go one series at a time, but I can get it for you right now. They are at the Trop, back in the Trop, not at George M. Steinbrenner Field anymore in Tampa, back at the Trop this year. So yeah, they're going to have a weekend series against the Rays.
So big series against the Rays, the first division series of the year. So we'll preview all of that on Thursday or Friday. Let's get 2 out of 3. Let's go for the sweep against the A's first. Let's handle business, and let's get to hopefully 10-2 by the time we see you next time. And hopefully Stanton or Judge is the series MVP for either of us. So we thank you for tuning in. We thank you for watching. Make sure to follow us on our social media handles. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video. Comment down below if you agree, disagree with our MVP picks from the previous series or the upcoming series. Let us know. And make sure to follow us along for the 2026 series. We have all New York Yankee coverage coming to you here on the Allen Hour. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your night.